It's so hard. I feel like I have to wait for the prepare to live stream to stop. So I'm going to try. And then I'm going to just shut this screen down. Hello. It got me already. I already got it. All right. So we're here. We're live. We're doing STEM from a distance. This is our third webinar. I'm really excited to have these amazing educators with me here today. And I'm seeing some people in chat. And so that's really nice. If everyone would say hello and where you're from. Oh, this is cool. Regina knows Leon. And from the National Geographic Educator Certification, which last week we talked to Bradley and Kim, and they were part of that, also the National Geo. So Mark, we don't have enough attendees for calling to have free tacos right now, but that's okay. So we have this, Tom and I have this running gag about if we have hit a certain amount of people, I get free tacos. And I think right now we are at we are doing something that everyone needs, but I bet we're going to get a lot of people watching this as a recording too, because oh yeah, I meant to actually check on Bradley and Kimberly because they might have had to evacuate. So you have fires in California. I know I didn't finish my whole sentence. I don't even know where it was anymore, but Bradley and Kimberly might have to evacuate from the hurricane. Smita almost had to evacuate from the fires. Claire did evacuate from the fires. So
no,
this time of year, I feel like this time of year is so crazy. And my students, which are my children now, today at lunchtime, we were talking about climate change and how hey, do you think it's worse? And is this really happening? And what do you see? So that was really interesting. All right, so we're here, we're live, we're talking about STEM from a distance because some of us have started school. We're a week into virtual school here at my house. And it's very different for elementary than middle school. So we have a lot to talk about. We have 1, 2, 3 middle school experts on today and 1 elementary expert, so that's good. And Claire is also here helping out with chat. So if you have any questions, Claire can be your technical support too if you want to hassle her. If you go ahead right now and change your conversation type in chat to all panelists and attendees, you'll talk to everyone. And we always say this, and I hate saying this, but I think it's the middle school teacher in me, but if you're saying inappropriate things in chat, I do get to boot you out because this is my webinar. So so I get to do it. I know we could actually talk. I do want to talk about this if we don't do it. Let's talk a little bit about discipline in middle school and Zoom, because I think that's an interesting thing to tackle. Make sure you're in gallery view so you see everyone's face the whole time and you don't get focused on just one person. Do share links, do mingle in chat, do feel free to talk. That's the best part of coming live, and post questions in chat or anywhere you want. You can use the Q&A, but we all read the chat a lot, and Claire is going to be in the chat. Just so you know, I have just a few things to cover, ground rules before we just totally jump into this. We are offering free shipping at home to anyone in the US. If you order Makey Makey kits right now, we will ship them to your students at their houses, and no additional cost for shipping. So please do email us at, I think it's education@joylabs.com. To get more info, to get a quote. We're taking purchase orders. We're doing this all the way through September. Even if you end up just wanting them shipped to your school with no shipping, let us know and we'll do that. I have been spending so much time this summer. In fact, I'd call it the pandemic, the whole pandemic. I've been spending so much time trying to come up with materials for teachers for learning at home. So homeschool teachers, public school teachers, anyone who wants to try and be doing hands-on activities. I've got this great PDF up here of all the classes I've made since the pandemic has started. And then I've been doing this for the last couple of weeks. I've been starting these embeddable Google Slides for your Google Classroom. Yes, it's all free. And these are all clickable. This is like a very elementary thing to do. Do you do this, middle school teachers? Do you make these super clickable slideshows? I didn't think so. This is very elementary school. So you can click on everything. You can click on the virtual Makey Makey. You can click to the assignment. Elementary teachers love putting 50,000 things in one slide. I don't know why. So actually, though, it's pretty cool because here is a whole week of activities in one slide. So here's it's the what is conductive assignment, class, whatever you want to call it, and as a Google slide. And Now the draw musical circuits. This one I'm actually really in love with because you can go and click on all the different piano apps. And just to finish that out, someone said they were not allowed to use anything Google. So I will try to make maybe some wakelets or something. Here's a wakelet for using a virtual Makey Makey. I talked about virtual Makey Makey last time. Some people aren't allowed to send materials home. So this is an idea to use Makey Makey without actually having one. There is a virtual Makey Makey that I've created in this Scratch project. You put it in your backpack. If you don't know how to put a Scratch sprite in your backpack, here's a video how to do that. And then you can actually use it in your own projects. So here I used it in a door alarm project. And then I used it in this tilt sensor, and I'm actually working on it with my next one. Okay, I'm sorry, I talked too much. I know I talk too much. I really apologize. I'm gonna stop sharing, and we're gonna meet all these wonderful people. So we're gonna go in order of how I see them. I don't know how you see them, but I see Leon Tynes right next to me, and he's muted. And he's gonna unmute. This is it. This is the first week of school. Mute, unmute, mute, unmute. So Leon, did you start school today?
I started school on the 5th. In Arizona, we start early.
Early, yeah.
Yeah, so it was August 5th.
Oh, you already were at, yeah, I knew you were already at school when we talked, but did students start yet?
Students started August 5th, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. All right, so yeah. Leon is an ISTE Outstanding Educator. He is a PBS Digital Innovator. Apparently, you're also a mentor for National Geo.
Yes.
And you won the Infosys Foundation USA Award for Teaching Excellent. You're an all-around amazing dude. Just say hello.
Hello. I'm excited to I love Makey Makey, and I'm excited to discuss how we can do some of these things in class in a distance model. It's very difficult time, but it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah.
We continue learning.
You've been at teaching virtually for almost a month. No, not a month. I've lost the track of time.
Close. It's close, yeah.
Yeah. It's been a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a lot to learn from you. Well, now I'm gonna go down to Chris Woods. He's right here. Chris Woods, you might know as Daily STEM on Twitter. If you aren't following Chris on Twitter, you need to. And if you aren't listening to his podcast, you need to. I've been finding podcasts to be an interesting thing to do during the pandemic when I'm trying to work and tune out my children screaming in the background. So I listened to a really good one where a guy was talking about having 45 kids in one classroom.
Yeah, that happens. I love the opportunity to have people on the podcast. It's called the STEM Everyday Podcast. Because I get to just talk. I get to learn as much as everybody else does. I get to just hear regular people, regular teachers just like us, sharing their ideas, what works well in their classroom. And if you're looking for ideas of what other people are doing, STEM teachers, maker teachers, elementary teachers, children's books authors, innovators, everybody. There's so many resources out there. That's the beauty of podcasts and everything. So,
yeah. And if Chris will put a link in there for you real quick, you sure. Also you have a book coming out on STEM culture.
Yeah, I'll throw the link out there in a second. Yeah, so okay. It's going to be called Daily STEM. It'll probably be out in early September through the Codebreaker. Great people at Codebreaker, which is Brian Aspinall and more. And I'm excited. I'm so excited because it's not just building a STEM culture in our classroom inside of our four walls, but it's how do we do it in our whole community? How do we do it everywhere? Because kids are out of our classrooms more than they're in our classrooms. So how do we just build that culture?
Yeah, and Brian Aspinall is one of our original Makey Makey ambassadors with me. We were like the first class of.
He's still got a big pile of them. He pulls out at every.
He teaches Makey Makey all the time, all over Canada. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
I think there was something else I was going to say, but I'm doing too long on the introductions again. Nathan is below me. Nathan Seckinger. Nathan is also a Makey Makey ambassador, a current year ambassador, and a librarian. So I'm very honored to have you here as librarian. We have rival backdrops. I love it.
No, I think you have more stuff.
No, we'll never have more stuff. But Nathan, you are so cool. You brought home all your 3D printers and you used them to make PPE for healthcare workers. So big shout out to you for that. I I tried. Yeah, I tried, and I did some, but I know you did a lot, and you're really a hero for that. And you're still going. You're doing virtual the whole fall.
That's right.
In Virginia.
Fall, we teachers have been back for the last couple of weeks, and so like we've said already, it really is. There's a lot of learning going on right now, and teachers are doing that learning. And and on Monday when our students come back, that's when it will start for them.
Yeah, and it's wild. So, and then Smita is the one who just started school either yesterday or the day before. You're in California, the director of innovation, and you taught for 11 years in Palo Alto. You're now working K-8, and you're the SVQ board and on the STCA board. You're into a lot of computer science for all. And I actually think, Smita, did we meet in person with Robert Provenos, like at ISTE or South by or something?
It is possible, but I haven't been to South by Southwest, but ISTE, yes, is possible.
I bet we met at ISTE. After we talked the other day, I was like, I think we met in person.
Yes, I think, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
But a while back.
Yeah. And you were doing online PD. So actually, I remember you were doing online PD, and you had this great question of ed tech craving more PD, and teachers wanting to make this virtual teaching style better. So I actually think this is a good place for us all to start. So where can we start with making our virtual teaching style better? I'm going to do this like real old school panelist style. Put a really hard question out and see who wants to answer it. I have to do wait time.
Sorry, what can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how can we make our virtual teaching style better? What are the things we're learning already, because you just started school, right? So what are some of your immediate things you learned that can help someone who hasn't started school yet?
So, sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Well, so at my school, one of the roles that I typically have as a librarian is contact with lots of teachers to try and get them set up with their technology needs for that first day of school. So, it's a little bit of a therapy session where, it's kind of a one-on-one. How do I do this? How do I make it work? So it's been really interesting to have those conversations. I feel like there's a constant talk of flow. What's it really going to look like? How are we going to construct our instruction in the best way? What are the pieces of it, and which part is going to be live? How am I going to pre-record that? Which tool am I going to use? So that's what we've been into for the last 2 weeks, is talking about which online tool does this best. Can we use Google Meet for the video piece, or a document camera for that, or which Chrome extension does that? So I think a lot of that is happening around this thought of flow. How do I take the best parts of my instruction and transform it into this new form?
I think that's the key component, is looking at what the best part of your instruction is and how that's going to work best virtually. And then thinking about, here's what I think is a little weird. We, in elementary especially, have started watching so many YouTube videos and doing brain breaks and Go Noodles. And like having a Go Noodle brain break on Zoom feels odd, right? But maybe getting up and running around your living room, that seems more normal. But now things like Flipgrid, which felt odd in the classroom, feel very normal as a way to share. So I think these are places we can start kind of breaking in here. So have you seen anything specifically like that that first day you went, oh my gosh, I should never do this again? I'm gonna call Leon. I'm gonna call on Leon.
Oh wow, that's a tough one. And it's tough because it's different for each teacher. There's teachers that have there's certain teachers that really should never talk more than 5 minutes on Zoom. They have to really break it up and figure out how they're going to create content. And they have to, and it goes back to the old school days, when my mother got her certification and they had to do that video element, there had to be a recorded element. I think this is the year of true reflection. How do you look online? How do you look in a student's eyes? If you talk more, can you engage students for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? How are you going to engage students for a longer span of time online? And I think we just have to look at our flavors, our different ways of engaging. And if we can't engage in this way, we have to find a different way to engage. And there's nothing wrong with multimodal ways of engaging. So if I broke up like a 30-minute lesson, I can use 3 different mediums for that lesson. Does that make sense? So yeah. I'm not just sitting there being a talking head for 30 minutes. And I think that's where we lose kids. And that's where teachers and administrators have to be honest about that. But every teacher's not going to be that super engaging person with 15 emojis going on and things appearing in their hand and, you know, doing all these amazing things. I think that just teachers need to know, and administrators need to know, that we as people take in information in different ways. And if we believe in that Howard Gardner way of engagement and multimodal thinking and processing, which is totally what we're doing in 2020, we know that we have to break things up and use different tools throughout our lessons.
Yeah. So here's the question. If you're being required to, because this is where I keep getting the pushback from other people, if you're being required to be online, I know we're calling it synchronous, but let's just call it live because we're all tired of synchronous and asynchronous already. So when you're live for an hour or an hour and a half, how are you going to keep those kids engaged? So I'm seeing my middle schooler, she has class every day with every teacher. Well, she has 4 periods and she has 5 meetings because lunch is in there, right? So some days she has 5 meetings, some days she has 4. And she's in there, some of them online the whole time with the teacher and engaged the whole time like art. She's sitting there, but her screen is like halfway down and she's just drawing. So I don't know if that's like a new thing. I think about that about discipline when we taught in live too, right? Put your screens halfway down. Like maybe that's part of it. And maybe that's a good tip. But that our teacher did and doesn't even know they did. Put your screen, but it's probably down so they could see the drawing. But how can we do real things together live? I'm gonna let Chris Woods attempt this, and then probably Nathan, and then Smita. I think you should all try to answer this question. So
all right, see, we're just going to attempt. I love that word that you used right there, Colleen. That's actually perfect because that's again what we want to encourage in our students as well. Already I've been doing 3 days now of online teaching, and we're online until at least October on my part of Michigan. And the number one thing that I've been trying to do is try my best to engage those kids right away. So I'm using their names frequently throughout while I'm talking. So even if I'm not necessarily asking them to respond to something, I'm still throwing their name out there as often as possible. Random kids' names. It helps bring them back in. Oh yeah, I'm all part of this. Or he might call my name next, or hey, that's my friend, even though we're not sitting next to each other. I'm very frequently, I'll mix in, teaching them something new about math, but then it's all right. Let's jump into the text box. Let's jump into the chat box. And I'm just going to ask you either a random question or a question related to what we're doing. I'm just going to say, hey, what's 5 times 6? And everybody type in your answer real quick, or, whatever it is that's your content area. So just especially I've been using that frequently just to keep changing things up. So it's not just me talking. Those things are really helping so far.
I think you said that in a tweet, and I asked you about it last week because people use the raise your hand thing and then all the hands are raised and it's really kind of distracting, but you can put an answer in chat. And I also think, I don't know if you said this or someone else might have said this one, but you could open a Padlet and answer in a Padlet. So then we actually see everyone's things. Cause sometimes in chat, we get this long scrolling thing and we can't read any of it. Yep. So and this again, that's going to be middle school because a kid under 4th grade is not going to be opening a second window and going to Padlet, which I think is where we'll have to bug Smita on figuring out how we're going to help engagement for littles. But I think this is a really cool idea to open Padlet, put the answers and answer chat. So I think everyone who's here right now, our live participants, should also answer some things they've learned in chat while we keep breaking this down. Mm-hmm. Who's next, Smita or Nathan? How we're increasing engagement in live learning.
Can I throw real quick and then Smita looks like she's ready. She's all unmuted or something. One of the things I've been doing is not only will I call on a name, I'll say, all right, in a moment, I'm going to ask this question. And, Smita's going to answer next. And then Leon is going to answer right after Smita. So it's preloading, getting those kids ready so they know they have to be ready to answer some of those things.
That's good.
So I'm just going to piggyback on that, Chris, because what I was going to say is a lot of the success of the lessons, no matter what it is, depends upon the organization of materials beforehand for the students. When you prepare them for what the lesson is going to be and what they will need, and with the little ones, of course, it means involving the parents beforehand, that this is what is going to be required. So our art teacher, for instance, had extremely successful summer camps with the kids, with even entering kindergarten, those who had just finished preschool, because of this reason. And the parents were super happy because every night it's like, okay, this is what the lesson is going to be. This is what you're going to need. And I think one of the things from like the previous question, the most important thing, just like in person, is in order to have any of these successfully, we do have to build good connections. The big difference between spring, where we already had the kids and we knew them and we had the connections, so it just meant transferring that online. But now there's a whole new set of students, and how do you get to know them? And the first, the mute unmute was okay. There's the tech pieces, but there's the humane pieces where it's like, who are you? What do you look like? Because I don't really know what your face is, especially like we have a new staff member. She's like, I have a printout of all the kids in my class with who's who. So then going back to what Chris said, calling them by name, I know I start identifying who's who, and then giving them a little time for socialization, no matter, because, they need that because they don't see each other. They were so happy yesterday to be back on Zoom, even though it was Zoom, because they got to see each other. So yeah, and then the Zoom etiquette along with prep comes that, where just like in the classroom, you set your expectations. It's like, this is what I expect when you're on Zoom, no matter what the age of the child. Helps determine some of the successes of online lessons.
One thing I saw work really well with my own first grader, who's really struggling, y'all. Like, it's a real struggle. I told Chris that on Twitter the other day, but the teacher had her as a helper one day. And so, you do that in class. So having a helper on Zoom was kind of a really cool idea to me. So her job that day was to say if she could see the screen, to say if we could hear the teacher, to say if someone else had a hand raised. She was like, so she was the most engaged I had seen her during the whole thing during that, because she was like actively participating the whole time. So I think that's one really cool way to spark that engagement. Nathan, what are you thinking?
I think, participation is definitely the name of the game. And that's what I think we're all talking about. Elementary, you can do things like have a whiteboard. And so you can share that visually. You can do things with your hands, 1, 2, 3, to represent your answer and your response. But like Chris said about knowing your students, about having platforms and opportunities to have that social interaction. I think, we haven't started it yet here, but I'm sure my teachers' goals will be to build that community, build that sense of not just the relationship between the teacher and the student, but us as a group. How do we know about each other? What do we know about each other? And how can we build, again, what's the appropriate tool to build some collective knowledge about each other?
And I think that's one of those places where something for at least the older kids, where you have a Padlet or some communal place to learn about each other. I know my kid's making a lot of Google Slides. She's making scratch projects about herself. I don't know that she's seeing what the other kids are making. So maybe have the older ones. So maybe if they're having those all in a community spot, and maybe they are all in one slide share already. Someone said on TikTok, here in chat, Kathy Whitlock said on TikTok, if you say you 2 times in 10 seconds, it increases the longevity of active participation. Now, I think that's commercialization of TikTok of like making a good video, but I think it's something we could try, right? When you're saying you too, you're saying a name is good, but saying you would also bring those kids in. We also have the question from the chat. Oh my gosh, I got to find it now. I lost it. Oh, I think this is a really good point. When a kid doesn't want to answer and they're afraid to be wrong, that I've seen that a lot, and I've seen the kids break down over wrong answers or being corrected. So maybe talking about grace first thing, or talking about being nervous. I know that my middle schooler, her first day, like her teachers were like, "Are you feeling weird? Like, this is kind of weird, right?" And I think being real like that is very helpful. So what do you think if someone doesn't want to answer on Zoom, or they don't want to turn their camera on in Zoom? How are we still going to engage them and make connections? Ooh.
So I think one of the things we did was, again, going back to the setting the stage, is with the Zoom etiquette, your camera needs to be on at all times unless you've talked to the teacher, and the teacher sets the expectation in terms of, it's okay, even I'm having a bad day, I don't want to look at Zoom, and it's okay if you do that. And then giving them the channels as a private Zoom chat, or whichever other way. If it's an older kid, then it's email, to know that, oh, checking in, how are you doing, what's going on. And those things are so important when we are online, so that they feel like, yeah, we do care about every student.
And Kathy also noticed on the flip side, more introverts are willing to answer in chat than speaking out loud. I think that's good too. That's sort of a really good way of thinking about it. It's okay to let them answer in chat or answer in person. Actually, what I'm doing right now, I feel like is something important the teachers have to do. They may not have thought of, like, you have to monitor chat. And you probably need to set some ground rules for chat. As someone who's watched what her middle schoolers' friends are chatting, you got to watch it, and you probably need to set some rules right away. But it's a great way to answer and respond as well. I think that's a great way. What are some things we can do, like for those movement breaks or for real hands-on activities? What have you had some experience that's worked well with that? Or ideas? It doesn't have to be you already did it, because I know Nathan has good ideas about that.
Well, I'm happy to chime in. So this in the spring, we did a bunch of online videos. Our middle school librarians collaborated to put together everything from trivia to book recommendations to ebook selection and maker challenges. So our mission for that was essentially it has to be materials that you have at home. And so that was a real fun challenge creatively to think about. All right, everybody's got the Amazon cardboard box, right? But even things like, do you have scissors? Do you have, maybe you have one kind of glue that's different than mine. So starting to think about how I say that, it's not just, it doesn't have to be Elmer's glue. It could be a glue stick. It could be whatever materials that you have, and talking about that as part of the discussion. So, and what would be fun, right? At that point, it was all sort of an enrichment model of what would be exciting enough, appealing enough to have a student invested in that. Going forward in the fall, I think our plan is to do more formal clubs with those technology tools.
And we talked about that too as actually a good way for learning, hands-on learning in STEM and invention literacy, something here at Makey Makey we're really big at, that inventive material usage can actually be a really exciting thing that can probably keep your kids from breaking down as well. Mr. Seconder, I don't have marbles. What am I supposed to do for a marble run if I don't have marbles? I can't do this activity, slam the lid. No, use an inventive material, find something else. Do you have Easter eggs? Can you use an Easter egg as a marble?
Beans.
Can you? Ooh,
Skittles,
jelly beans.
and put your mouth right at the end.
That's right.
Yeah, Skittles. But I think that's really the part of being a scientist and inventor that a lot of us like, that when we're not naturally there, we're just like, well, I can't use a different material. I have to use the right one. I think it makes for actually a really exciting way of learning.
In fact, I think one of the best things that kids can do and teachers can do, especially if they're in that maker and STEM aspect, is first day or whatever, have the kids go around their house and find whatever they can that might be useful. Put it in a bin, put it in a box, have it on a shelf near where they're working so that they've got their maker bin, they've got their stuff, you know, then it's just, let's use whatever we got, which I don't know, has always been a skill. You know, think back to the Depression, you know, like use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. That's what we got right now.
Yeah. So Nathan, you have a specific question here for you. They want to know like some of your specific challenges that you offered that you had success with. And there have students with limited materials at home that range from 1st to 5th grade.
Right. Well, one of the probably the one that was appealing to my students the most was a dog and cat toys. And so we used a lot of, you know, like old shirts and things like that we cut up and did some braiding. And so that was pretty limited materials. You needed scissors and you needed an old piece of clothing. We did things that were inspired from the Exploratorium with cranky contraptions that were a lot of fun. So you needed a little bit of wire, but maybe it's a, you know, maybe it's a paper clip that you have, or maybe it's something else. So we did, I love Chris's idea of just, you know, what do you have? And let's start with that. That would be a great way to start the conversation if you had some back and forth is throw your junk on the table, let's see what it is, and let's build a project collectively out of the things that we have.
I like that idea too. Like if that, to me, that would be really engaging and not the sage on the stage teacher talking. If you said, what do you have? And then let's all show it. We have our little show and tell of what we have. And okay, now let's build together and maybe play some music. You don't have to talk the whole hour and a half that you're live, right? You can have some wait time. So I think we need to hear from Leon a little more about some ideas with making virtually with kids.
I agree with everything that's said. You know, in particular for me, you know, I'm working on a huge sustainability project. So I have students collecting things that are coming from their trash or their disposables, because we all have them at home, whether it's a paper bag, whether it's a piece of plastic, or something aluminum. We have stuff like this around our house. And I really want my kids to start thinking about how we dispose of those things and whether those things can be recycled or not. And then why do we keep making these things? So, you know, doing that type of thing is something that we always have. You know, those are things that we always have. And we have to look at everything from a point of equity, because I know in my particular demographic, a lot of students don't have a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm constantly fundraising and writing grants, as you know, to make sure that our kids have what they need. But another big fact is for me to go to my garbage. If I'm going to do this, let's do it. And let you know, whether it's my phone or my camera on my laptop, while we're doing those building things, I'm building with them so they can see my struggle. They can see how non-creative I am, and that it's okay. It's okay to screw up. It's okay to not get it, 100% perfect. So if you're building with them, a lot of that fear barrier goes down, and you're making the mistakes right with them. So it's like, hey, mine looks stupid and yours might look 10 times better, because we know kids are more creative, and reinforce that. I tell my kids all the time that you are better than I am. I'm just framing what we need to do, but you have much more creativity than I do. We know that it's cognitive science. So let them, just give them a framework and then build with them. And they say, wow, Mr. Tynes made a mistake, or Mr. Tynes' design is not the best, mine is better. And just bring the barrier down and say, yes, you're right, yours is better, mine's not that good. And
I'm sorry.
No, when you have that kind of back and forth with them, you break barriers right at the beginning. So by the time you get to October, you're at a different level with the kids. You're at a different thing, and there's no fear. They're like, hey, we're going to build, we're going to make mistakes. I'm going to wire the makey up wrong. I do it intentionally sometimes, so that a child can correct me. So if we show that we're vulnerable, I think that works a lot.
So I don't know if you guys have watched some of my videos, but I often make mistakes in my videos and I don't edit those out and I keep them there and I go, oh, this isn't working because I did this. And that's why I do that as someone who makes stuff that I don't know. I don't know how many people are watching it. I don't know how many people are doing it. And I think that might be something as teachers who are so used to being perfectionists about like the bulletin board or whatever, like that is something we have to be vulnerable, but vulnerable. Oh my gosh, can't even say the word vulnerable. I can't do it. I can't do it anyway. We have to do that. You guys, you made me think of Ryan Jenkins from Wonderful Idea Company. So I went to his Twitter real quick to show you this thing he made for, oh gosh, now I gotta, but I want to scroll back up. This is what he made to share his top-down experience with his phone. Is this, he used this milk jug with cardboard, and apparently the paper towel roll tubes are called dirters. Did you know this? This is his setup for sharing like a like Instagram style where you can see top down. But I also want to point out to everyone, I'll put Ryan's link in there, that I actually had my child the very beginning of summer go to one of Matthew's, this really amazing artist right here, go to one of Matthew's workshops on Zoom because I was like, how is online learning working? What do we do? And Matthew taught me so much in that experience for 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds that you don't have to talk the whole time. He had quiet music playing while they were working and they just worked. And he did everything y'all are saying. He used their names and said, you know, Tiffany, will you show us what you're working on? And Nathan, what have you done? And just took little breaks. But look at the stuff that he's doing here. He's made a thing that can dance on a dance floor. It's just recyclables, right? But we can still talk about science and stuff. So I'll put Ryan's link in the chat for everyone. But I don't know why I got really excited about that. That's all the things you're saying, using those new materials, finding ways to make with kids, showing them mistakes are okay. Oh my goodness, this is really good stuff. I don't even know what my next question is. Another thing you've all been doing that you may not even knowing, besides just head shaking, I noticed when Chris agrees he does this, and I did see a thing in Edutopia where like, I liked this, but I want to learn the real, well, actually I know this is more. So maybe this is a good one to do. If I want to add to what someone else is saying, yeah, I can go like this, and I don't even have to mute. And then the teacher can call on me and say, oh, Colleen, what do you have to add to that? Because I feel like that's one of those things we really need to work on, is how we can build on conversations where our students are actually responding, right? So do you have any good techniques for that are happening, or seen any real engagement in this way with kids talking to each other? Because so far what I've seen in my kids' middle school is mostly the teacher talking and the kids working, and they do ask questions, but I'm not seeing like, it's too early, right? You wouldn't do that the first week of school, have communication. I'm just kidding. But you know, having class conversations, how are you going to manage that right now?
I think the breakout rooms are awesome for that.
Yeah, breakout rooms.
Yeah,
I like it too. What if, and Google Meet doesn't do it yet, but you can make your own Google Meet breakout rooms by like making a slideshow and having kids break out that way. Can you monitor those right now, Smita, the Zoom ones?
If it's one adult, no.
Yeah.
The adult can pop in from room to room. So that's basically what happens.
Yeah.
In terms of, I just want to add to what Liord said about the materials and things, which is, you know, unfortunately, the maker spaces now, at least at our site, because we've had to reconfigure school in terms of what we're doing. And plus, since March, everything's just sitting there. So end of May, we did a drive-through pickup for the summer and loaned out everything from Makey-Makeys to microbits to Cava planks to robots, like, take it, go, we want you to. And then parents would send me pictures like, look what my child did today. It's so awesome to see. And they'll say, thank you. And I'm like, thank you, because we want the materials to be used instead of just sitting here, you know? So that's been wonderful. Even plain Lego, you know, just Legos, like give boxes of Legos and kids are at home and they would love that. It's their connection in a way to school too.
And you made a STEAM bingo card you sent home, right?
Yeah, we made a few different bingo cards, a CS Unplugged card, big bingo cards. So I make 2 of those, theme, just art, different things. And it was a few different teachers who made like art, library, reading, and so on, which was great. Now that the air is clearing, maybe we can tell the kids to go outside and look for things. In the middle, we couldn't. So, the bingos for the little ones could be like, walk around your neighborhood and check out what different flowers you have. This early spring was lots of flowers. Now it may be something else, the trees, and soon it'll lead to the different types of leaves that are falling. So yeah, there's all kinds of things they can observe, and that can be part of the engagement too, which is like Chris said earlier about the things around the house. Yeah, I mean, that could be within the session, so you're not on Zoom continually, right? Go look for 5 different items that are made of wood.
And Gerald last week had a really cool science walk around for science and making an art. I think it was making a portrait, like sort of like a found portrait out of materials that you find around your house, that I think are good. And Paul asked a question in chat that I meant to ask a minute ago, so I need to bring it in now because it's a good time to talk about it. What about kids who aren't allowed to make messes, or how do you prepare the parents to know that the kid's going to make a mess? Because I can be, as much as I love my kid, in a mess. So I've talked about how she makes it up here every day. Do we need to set aside a mess making spot? What do we need to do to get those parents ready that, hey, we want them making stuff, messes are okay, some suggestions? Because I don't know if y'all, Smita knows from elementary, but in middle school, you don't know how messy those elementary kids can be. Unless you have them at your house, you might know. But I remember looking at my library floor one day and just I was like, I hope no one important walks in and sees all the stuff on the floor, and there's melted crayon on the floor, and there's Play-Doh on the floor, because we've been having so much fun, but it looks bad.
We can make a mess in middle school too.
I know you can make a mess in middle school and high school. It's different in elementary. Like, they don't pick up at all after themselves. So maybe that's also part of it, though, is preparing parents. So have y'all done anything to prepare parents? Like, I loved, Smita, what you said about the art teacher. So I guess she sent home the night before what the materials were and the lesson was. Like, are there other things that small things you may not have? I think this is one of those things where we're doing stuff, but we may not even notice we're doing it, but other people need to know. So, like, can you think of things that you've done for the parents that other people might not have thought that, oh yeah, I should tell them the night before materials they need, or maybe I'm going to do it the week before, or maybe I just need to set aside a moment to say, parents, make a mess making spot.
Colleen, I think that the power of video is strong. That's my thing. I think we have to show them the same way we're educating kids online. We have to do the same thing and create video clips that say, hey, here's the assignment for your child, and let me show you how I did it in my house. So I didn't make a big mess. I know people are using cardboard boxes, so they'll cut the sides down to where they're about a couple of inches, and you keep everything into that space, depending on what the assignment or what the project is. I use a lot of spare newspaper. We just literally have to show them, because if we tell them, it still doesn't connect. But show them our workspaces or what we've done in our classes or for different projects and things like that, so that they can see what that looks like. And I think that's a big step in this whole space. They're frustrated. Our parents are frustrated. They really don't know how this is going to work, and they have a lot of anxiety, and rightfully so. But the best way we can do that is to create almost like 2 channels, 2 paths. So we have things for students and we have things for adults, so they can see how they can support the students. So we can't remove the adults from this equation.
You also talked to me about how you were looking at creating content for students. Maybe this is the video I make here, and then I have an enrichment activity that goes with this for the students that need enrichment, and then I have another activity here for my special ed students. So can you talk a little bit about how you're doing those? Like what kind of ways you're doing that, or maybe implementation? Like, what does that look like? Is it all in Google Classroom? How does it look for you?
Yeah, I definitely send videos with multiple, I definitely edit videos. So they're not Zoomish. They're, you can actually see exactly what's going on and I'm narrating it. I always, when I think about a lesson, I'm thinking like, okay, I do have to do that enrichment video. So how far can, the advanced students extend it? And then I do 2 supplemental videos. So I have to analyze like what are the most difficult elements of what I'm asking students to do. And then I create just short 3 to 4 minute videos. And I also do separate Zooms. So if for those SPED students, I work with my SPED department so that my SPED teacher can be in there with me and we can build together as long as it takes. And that's after, the regular Zoom allotted time. So just being flexible and making sure that we support, you have those 2 support videos and then 1 enrichment video along with your regular lesson video. So understand, I do the Zoom and then I always create a separate main video because, oh, I forgot what's in Zoom. I forgot, or I zoned out, or I was eating a cookie. Like, let's be realistic. Our kids do other things. They're not going to sit there and pay 100% attention on Zoom. It's just, they're not. Yeah. So I always have that other one so that they're not saying, hey, Mr. Tynes, did you do Mr. Tynes' lesson? Oh, well, I kind of forgot. Yeah, you can't forget because I sent you a link to the lesson video. So yes, is it a lot? I don't think it's a lot more work. I think we just have to get used to the different type of work that we're doing now in light of this pandemic. But this is something that we can do in regular, normal times too, and say, hey, that kid zoned out in class. Now they can go to my website or go to my YouTube channel and pick up the lesson. Oh, I forgot what he said. Why not?
Somebody needs to tweet what you just said. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, but let's focus on that it's different work. It's different work. It's not necessarily more work. It's just different. And we can't take what we did in our classroom and just come to Zoom and expect it to work. We got to change things up. And Regina said she was doing a salt activity and she saw parents screaming on the other end because the kids were pouring too much salt, which gave me flashbacks to my first cupcake decorating makerspace nightmare that I still have nightmares about. Never do food with children. No, I'm just kidding. Cooking is actually great. But I think that's where we bring in all this cross-curricular. We bring in how much can we pour? Let's pour 1 tablespoon of salt and now we can use that salt. And you can only learn from doing it. So like, it's great that you did that, Regina, and you tried it. And now we know, okay, if I'm gonna have my kids use materials that parents might get upset about, let's teach them measurement to go with it, right? Like, let's do some of that. So I want more thoughts around special ed from other teachers here in this panel. If you guys have some thoughts you can share. It looks like Sunita's ready to go.
Well, actually, just one idea which has worked for us is a lot of one-on-one sessions. In terms of really having our learning support team connect with the students, that way. I think they have the hardest time really in this virtual environment.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one-on-one and the small groups, I think, are really helping. The whole groups with the whole class is really strange. But the small groups are, everybody smile, Chris is taking a picture. The small groups are a little more feasible. One thing I've noticed for middle school that my kid told me, which I don't know if she's going to be upset with me for telling all of you, is that she's liking class, but she's really missing the social interaction, which is something I've noticed. Just, I loved calling all of y'all and talking to all of y'all. It was like going to a conference and meeting everyone in the hallway. And like that, those are the moments we have to learn to recreate. It's like these social moments are actually really important for all of us especially if we're stuck at home. So what do you think about creating those social moments? And I think Zoom breakout rooms are mostly the answer, but what if you don't have access to that? Like, I know that my kids here are not using Zoom, so they don't have access to that. What are other ways they could increase that type of engagement.
Colleen, let me just clarify something for you.
Mhm.
Like, me, you, Chris, Nathan, and Smita, and a lot of, amazing Regina, and some of the other people that are participating. We've been to a conference and we've seen that energy and we know what that looks like. But the vast majority of teachers in the United States have never been to a conference.
Yeah.
So we need to also empathize with those teachers that are just like, hey, I just want to come in and do my work. I have 2 kids or whatever, and they don't have the time to or the money to spend on ISTE. I put that money away.
Yeah.
So, I specifically planned for that. I know my district is not going to do it, and it's a big expense. But when you go to a conference, there's a whole different energy that's there that's not at most of our schools.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people haven't seen that. And so I'm empathizing with teachers right now that, they're going to have to kind of find their group or find a person to really work with that has had that experience and has that energy naturally. Like I see Chris has it, I see Nathan has it, Smita has it. So, but that's something that's learned from our experiences where the average teacher experience is not that. It's, it's drill and kill. It's, you need to do your lesson plan and there needs to be 2-part objectives. It's very methodical and square, unfortunately. We get it from a different source because we've had different experiences. So I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people just don't.
That's good. I think it's good. And that promotes equity because you're right. And that's showing my privilege as a teacher that I have been able to go to those conferences. I've been able to speak at them and I've been able to do those things, and not everyone can do that. And I think some of us are getting to do it more virtually, but it's a different experience when it's
a different experience. She
I think Colleen
froze. Hey,
But
so
I'm going to respond to her previous question about the socializing. We started doing lunch bunches. So even if some, people don't have access to breakout rooms, this is something that, again, and you know what you said, Leon, about the teachers, that's absolutely right. And some want to break and some really want to connect with the kids, even they're willing to give up their lunch times, which is so lovely because they miss having the kids so much. And so it's like, okay, twice a week, I'm going to let the kids come and, work on those lunch bunches. So, and they just come hang out, they may eat, they may just talk about anything. Maybe it's Star Wars, maybe it's Legos, maybe.
Right. And I think that, I just so empathize with the average, teacher and the average experience.
Yeah.
And we all know what like PD looks like normally in our schools, and it's not so great. Like, how do we, and I think that's what Colleen was saying, like, how do we get those teachers, now that we're in this virtual space, to really allow their personality and their enthusiasm to come through? I don't have the answer to that, but we are blessed, we are fortunate that we've had a lot of experiences, but so many teachers don't. I don't even know how to approach that. I mean, please chime in, because I just know that it's a problem.
I think we need to rely on each other in the building, or in our districts, if we're lucky to have those kinds of connections. It's so valuable to see that presentation on that new tool that you might see at a conference. But a lot of teachers just have that more practical question. How do I do this better? How do I solve this problem? And so whether it's coaches in the building, support staff, or just that PLC that has the people that are doing your exact job, which, I'm sounds like probably most of us are kind of onesies in our building, where we're the only ones who do this thing, but there might be somebody else in the district, or someone else that has kind of a similar mindset to us that we can connect with. I always find that really valuable. If somebody has already had that problem, has spent the time working on it, and is ready to share what they know.
Oh, y'all, thanks for keeping going when I lost the internet. It keeps losing the internet. It keeps dropping me off the call. It's like virtual school. It's a real thing that keeps happening. I'm not a mannequin. I keep getting booted off. Someone said teacher meets and maker meets. Chris Reyna said that in chat, like their capital. Are those real places to meet people? Is that, I don't know. And then they want a few ideas or websites for making at home projects for middle schoolers. I don't know if y'all seen Daily Stems. You got to go to Chris's webpage. I just printed out like 300 science activities for my first grader to do from Chris's webpage, and they're really good ideas. And okay, so yes, Google Teacher Meets. We'll put a link up, and we'll put a link to everything we've talked about. And I know that I really wanted to focus on Leon and Nathan talking about sending home maker kits, and then we're like running out of time. So I don't know if we should just do another whole session someday, or there's too much to talk about.
I mean, I can quickly do that. I know that I got a grant, A for Arizona grant, and we're ordering 500 microbits for 5th through 8th grade. Nice. And we're sending them home in little box packets, and we're going to keep, exactly. And we're going to send them home in a little box, you know, so it's going to be like a book checkout system type thing. So you come in and you can just, you know, check it out and, you know, bring it back whenever. But we're going to put them in little plastic kits, and then we're going to add to them as we go forward. Like, hey, now I want you to do something with an LED strip. I'm going to throw, you know, they can bring them back and come and pick up the LED strip and put them in. But this is, you know, COVID, not just, you know, for home, but also in person. But they're able to take them home, bring them back to school, take them home, bring them back to school. So there's no risk of, you know, transmission, because everyone's kind of working in their own thing. So, and yes, we're doing some with Makeys. We're doing some with our Arduinos and Raspberry Pi as well.
Hey, and I said this on the last one, if you need a virtual guest teacher, when you do Makey, the presenters get first choice, because normally in my job, I go to school and I try my projects and activities with real students. And so I still want to do that even if in this virtual setting. So if you want to call me, Leon, and I'll come to your class, we'll happily do that. And I have already had experience in troubleshooting from the screen. It is a whole new world out there when you're doing that. So I'm ready to do that. Real students. Did I say real students?
You'll be teaching a lesson in my class. Yeah.
You said real students. Yeah.
I did.
And then you said a whole new world, and I was just like ready to start going in. I know everybody in the chat was. Hey, can I ask a real quick question? How many people are remote learning? Are you standing up or are you sitting down when you're presenting to your students? I'm a stand-upper.
That's a good
question. I've got boxes stacked up, so my laptop's up high. It gets me like because I'm a stand-upper in class. Oh, if you're sitting, it's a game changer to stand up. Give it a try.
And Oriana yoga ball. You tried sitting on a yoga ball? My 6th grader sits on a yoga ball. She loves it.
I'm 6'4". My center of gravity is different for a yoga ball. Yeah.
You'd be too tall. Oh, I love it.
Well, I'm 5 foot. Period, 5 feet. So, you know, it's the reverse. However, standing is really, it just energizes you. It's like being in the classroom, and you don't want to sit when the kids are there. So you want to stand. A couple of the teachers actually took podiums that were in the auditorium and everywhere so that they could use those, you know.
I should get a link to this stand that I use. I have a stand for my computer that I'm using right now, since this isn't my actual desk, but my desk converts from standing to sitting, and that's again because I'm working remote. But this thing, I take it outside, so then I could have class outside. And yeah, that's what I was thinking. Stack some boxes up and put your computer on it is another good way to do it. But also, like, this wasn't very expensive, this stand, so I don't think you could use a music stand, but that's what this looks like, just so you know.
I have mine on boxes, A, because, you know, we're maker people. We love the cardboard boxes, but B, I'm just in a temporary apartment right now. And so, you know, like in between moves. So we just got to, we teachers, we do what we got to do, right? Every day, we do what we got to do for the kids.
Oh, Mark, you has stood next to Smita apparently, and he says you look like Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah. Standing next to Mark. Yeah.
Well, you have to have, if you are going to stand and you want to type, you do have to have your computer like up so that your hands are still doing it right. And have y'all had successful ways of kids being able to show what they're working on? Because I mean, we can do this, right? Like we can move our screen, but are there other things you could, we talked about having a mirror. My husband made this really cool 3D printed thing to stick on. I also knew an Instructable from Amos who has a mirror hack too that's kind of cool with a clothespin. But have you had any ideas for that before we go? We're almost done. Anybody?
Last year, I just had my students use whatever device they had to snap a picture of like their work they did on paper. Because I'm a math teacher, you know, and I couldn't send I didn't want to send home a worksheet or whatever. It's like, show me your work. Hold up your notebook, snap a picture. We do whatever we got to do.
I just know when I was doing it with the virtual class with my, I'm trying to find this mirror hack and talk at the same time, that it's kind of awkward for kids if they're plugged in a makey. She was trying to show me her drawing and how it was mistaken, and you know, like this kind of stuff is happening. I think this might be a teachable moment too, and we know they don't have the extra devices. They can't necessarily log in from a second device. So I think it's something that we kind of have to think about.
Hey, Colleen, you know, Zoom is available on a phone.
Right.
So if you want to go outside and, you know, show some things or show specifically what you're doing, you can log in and be on a computer and then still also have your phone, just switch your host to your mobile device, and you can just do whatever you want to do.
We can do that as adults, but can we ask our kids to do that?
I'd rather just have like a little recording of them. I'd usually just tell them to send me a clip through Class Dojo or email or something like that, and they love doing it.
Yeah, that's why I think Flipgrid makes sense now, right? Like like before it felt a little weird when you'd be like, record yourself. Why? I'm standing here. But now it's like
it makes sense now.
Makes sense now to use it. Kim Francis is raising her hand. I have no idea what that means. I think everybody's ready to go though. So if you have any questions, go ahead and you can email me, or you can email us at support@joylabs.com. We will share all the resources we can. Smita, I know everyone asked about your bingo cards. Are you going to be able to share them for me to put on our blog post?
Yeah, okay. I'll send them to you. So then
you
can include them.
I will put those up, and I will.
Can I say something on the bingo cards? Just one thing, Colleen, is that for everybody, if you know there were too many items, I feel on one sheet, even though we created it, and if rethinking that over the summer, I feel like I want to redo those for the younger kids. So like if it's K1, only maybe 3 items on that sheet. Maybe 9 hugely printed items versus cramming in like 24 or something on one sheet. So just keep that in mind when you use those to make copies or whatever.
Maybe do like, how many do you think? For
like
6,
they
9?
use for usual 9 is good, maybe for K2, and then you can increase
9 and you only have to do 3. You don't have to do a blackout.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's important. And those of you middle school teachers who are looking at us like we're crazy, it's really important for elementary to have that. But probably in middle school too. I feel like everything always goes. Y'all, I wish we could have a repeat session of this. This has been really awesome. I'm going to stop the live stream, but just so that it doesn't have to listen to us all saying goodbye. But thank you, everyone. In chat, we're getting a lot of thanks. We're getting a lot of people saying this is the best webinar they've attended this whole summer. So I know, awesome. And I feel like it was short. I don't even think we got even started. So maybe we'll come back next week. I don't know. But thanks, everybody. Give a goodbye, a good wave bye.